And we are back.
We are back, Kev. How are you?
We are back. It took us a minute to break down the DJ equipment. You did a good job
Thanks,
for
man.
your first time
Really enjoyed it.
on that rotary,
That was great. Yeah, first time I've ever.
right?
Yeah, I mean, those things are becoming more and more, I guess, prevalent. But that's a great piece of equipment. I think you just got to get used to playing with it a little bit.
Oh
That's
man,
it.
it looked like towards the end of the set you really
I was getting
you got
into it by
comfortable,
then.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. There's a few scuff ones in there, but whatever.
I don't think anyone noticed any of that. I think we are our own worst critics.
Absolutely, every time.
Because as
Yeah.
far as I'm concerned, it was just an amazing time.
Well, thanks, man.
It was an
Really
amazing
enjoyed
set, and thank you very much for being here with us this morning. It is Tuesday morning. We're here to the 4 o'clock hour, the Dance4Life house show with Kruz. I am Kruz, and you are
Andy
here
Lothian.
with our guest. Say it again.
Andy Lothian.
Andy Lothian. Where you from, Andy?
Well, originally from the UK. We moved here 20 years ago now, and it was only supposed to be like a 2-year thing, with the day job. And then somehow 2 years became 5, and 5 years became 10, and then the kids get into college and uni, and God knows whatever else. And here we are, 20 years on now.
Wow.
But the accent hasn't really changed very much. I mean, I shower most mornings, but it won't come off.
Well, after 20 years, I would say you're a New Yorker, huh?
I think so. I'd be very proud to have that label.
What was the moment when you were like, okay, now I'm a New Yorker?
I don't think there's ever one particular moment. It's just one of those things that just kind of just drifts, and I think it's very, very odd, especially when you've got young kids. And when we first moved here, the kids were very little, and they had this cute kind of English accent. And at some point that just goes, and then the kids come home talking like every other kid from Jersey.
Oh.
And at that point you think, okay,
I'm here.
I'm here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Coming from the UK, coming to America, coming to the New York area,
Yeah.
tri-state area.
Yeah.
When did you pick up them? You played you went across the board with the music tonight, but it's so soulful.
Yeah, I mean,
So expressive.
Yeah, I mean, I think that really kind of sort of goes back to, all of the things that I've loved over the years. I mean, my love for this music goes back over 40 years.
Wow.
And, I think if I go back to when I was in high school, and, there was a certain group of kids that went into Genesis and Pink Floyd and Black Sabbath and stuff like that. And it might seem like a crazy thing to say right now, but the turning point for quite a few of us actually was Saturday Night Fever.
Okay.
1977. Out comes the movie. And it was huge over there, just as it was here. And all this stuff going on, as I said before. Genesis, Pink Floyd, rock, that kind of stuff. Punk was big in England at the time as well.
That's right.
I heard something in some of those songs from the movie that kind of interested me, and it wasn't the Bee Gees. It was Kool and the Gang, and it was Tavares, Ralph McDonald.
Ralph McDonald has an amazing track on that.
Tramps.
All right, yeah.
MFSB,
Okay.
and those were the things that really moved me as a person. And obviously at that particular age, I was 14, 15 years of age. Too young at that particular time to get into the proper nightclubs and I guess discos and
Right.
things like that. So we used to go to the local disco, and they were playing those particular tracks. They were also playing things like Earth, Wind and Fire. Running was a big record I remember back in those days. Cleveland Eaton, Bama Boogie Woogie. I mean, to this day, I still don't know what that was about, but that was a huge record. Evelyn Champagne King, Shame,
Right.
Olympic Runners, Keep It Up, all of those kind of things, and I guess that was the start of the journey for me.
Okay.
And that journey's been going on now for 42 years, I say.
Wow. So you went back 40 years with some of that music. Olympic runners.
Yeah.
Do it any way you wanna do it. Do right?
Yeah, all that
So,
stuff. Yeah, yeah,
you know, it's easy to get stuck there.
yeah. It is. But you know, I think that it's important, you know, to keep trying to move forward. And you know, certainly, I got to a point, I guess, because I started. I guess I started playing in clubs around about '82.
Okay.
Is when I first started DJing. And you know, at that particular time, you know, there was a lot of things coming out that we really liked. You know, some of the soul artists were people like Kenny Burke and Howard Johnson,
Right,
and,
right.
You know, people like that, and we loved all of that stuff.
Now listen, we are in Harlem right now.
Right.
Those are Harlem national anthems.
Right.
Keep rising to the
Yeah.
top. Right. Let the people know.
Yeah, you know, and I mean, so even back in England at that particular time, we're playing those things. We're playing Patrice Rushen, we're playing Freddie Jackson, and we're playing, I guess, you know, D-Train, and then we started to get these 12-inch singles coming over on Prelude Records, and it was the Strikers, and it was Sharon Red and Inner Life, and all of those kind of things. So,
Right.
you know. By that time, I was completely hooked. I was completely hooked at that point.
Right.
And then I guess, you know, and I was very lucky. I got quite a lot of work back in those days. You know, we at that particular time, we didn't really know what to expect, what was going on. We were just living the life as it was at that particular time. And it wasn't uncommon to be playing in clubs, you know, back in the suburbs of London with 500-600 people there.
Wow.
You know, and because that's the way that it was, we just accepted that that's you know, that's how it is. There was a club that I used to play on Saturdays in about 83, 84, a place called the 06 in Southend, and there was, you know, 1,000, 1,200 people in there. And
Wow.
you know, and to us at the time, that was just what we expected it to be. By the time we got to the mid to late 80s, some of it was getting a little bit kind of stale.
Right.
I felt that some of the music was kind of getting a bit stale.
Right.
Too slick, you know. And
Right.
and that's with that, I guess, you know, the Jerry Curls of the
Right.
groups like The Deal and,
Right.
and, you know, Midnight Star and
Right.
El DeBarge and those kind of
Troop.
things. Yeah, true, yeah. You know, but obviously around that time, house music started to come through. You know, and the stuff coming out of Detroit and Chicago at first was, you know, was kind of interesting.
Right.
But it didn't really move me to the point until CC Rogers Someday came out. I think
Okay.
it was '87, and then it takes me off on this whole other journey.
Wow.
You know, and then it's Byron Stingley and it's 10 City and,
Right.
it's Frankie Knuckles and it's all of those things, you know. And again, so that journey has continued ever since.
So
And-
you just keep getting moved by the music and new
Yeah.
sounds and
Yeah, but
new material.
Yeah, but I think also 70s soul has always been, you know, the thing that I heard first and the thing that really kind of got me into it. And that has kind of stayed with me, you know, and even subconsciously, I'm pulling out things that just have that 70s kind of feel.
And we can feel that.
Yeah.
Wow, when you dropped that, neither one of us.
Oh, is that crazy?
Oh,
Oh,
man. For those of us just tuning in, he dropped a crazy remix of Gladys Knight, and definitely you can hear the influence within house music of today. Is firmly rooted in the music of those days,
Yeah,
and it's
sure.
a wonderful thing. So those, you know, when music borrows from and builds on
Yeah.
what came before it,
For
that's
sure.
a special thing.
Somebody said to me, you know, what's the first house record you ever bought? And I said it with a straight face, and I absolutely mean it. I said, it's Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, Bad Luck.
There you go.
I mean, you know, to me, with Earl Young and the drums and all that stuff, I mean, that was the first house record.
Give it up for
Yeah.
Philly. Give it up for Philly,
Yeah.
Gamble and Huff. Those brothers really put down the foundations
Yeah.
of house music
For
and,
sure.
and the sounds that you would hear in the park in New York in those 70s days, the sounds that Frankie Knuckles took out to Chicago that became the quote-unquote warehouse sound,
Yeah.
was firmly rooted in the sounds of
Yeah.
Philadelphia.
Yeah. What was interesting though, because obviously the things that we were experiencing back in London and the whole of England at that particular time, you know, it was odd because we came at it from a completely different place. but we kind of ended up in the same place.
Okay.
You know, I guess there's always going to be certain records that are going to be more popular in one place than others.
Right.
But you know, our thing was going on completely separate from what was going on over here in terms of, you know, the Paradise Garage and Frankie Knuckles in Chicago,
Right.
and all of those other things. But you know, we were
Well,
pretty
the
much.
music was a lot the same.
Yeah.
And I'm impressed by. I've been to the UK a couple of times. I'm impressed by how multicultural it is, in the sense that people really embrace
Yeah,
each other's culture.
for sure.
You see the
Yeah.
influences, and you
Yeah.
see people not just get along to get along, like really have bonds.
Completely.
And the music
Yeah.
makes a huge bond. And you know, DJs like yourself,
Yeah.
and the music itself, you know, we just gotta applaud you.
Yeah.
We gotta applaud you for laying
Oh,
down
amen.
that groundwork and framework. And you and I met recently in Sunset,
That's right.
which is a festival in Croatia, which
Yeah.
is, you know, it's a lot of OGs over there to teach the youngsters what they're doing, man.
I've just about
And-
got over it now, by the way. I think it's taken me about 2 weeks. You know.
Listen,
Yeah, I'm not over it.
I love
No.
being here right now. I love talking to everyone that's listening. But let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Oh man, that is a wonderful place. Sons of Beat 11 is going to come up next July. You can check it out. SUNCEBEAT. Sons of Beat.
Yeah.
Look it up. Look at some of the past videos. Look at some of the talent they have there. Look at the amazing place of Tisno, Croatia. And if you can make it, it is worth your time.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. A lot
Right?
of fun.
Isn't
And-
it?
Yeah, you know, and what is great for me is that a lot of the people that were there are people that I've known for many, many years. We all started off in the same place, you know, when we were teenagers,
Right.
Wow.
and here we are, all these years on, still, you know, still basically doing the same thing.
The
And,
love
yeah.
and the respect and people are still fans of the music, whether they're artists or well-known DJs, and you can feel it. And wow,
Yeah.
I'm at a loss for words.
It's a special thing. Yeah.
I'm at
Yeah,
a loss
yeah.
for words.
That's a
Now,
first.
now, don't be shy while you're here talking to us, because you have a long history within music outside of DJing.
Yeah, that's actually quite a funny story, and you know, so I got dragged into the record business, which is not my main thing. Finance has been my main thing ever since I was a kid. You know, when I left school, 16 years of age. Music has always been my passion. DJing, you know, at various times sometimes it was more important, sometimes it was less important, and then for a period, you know, I kind of put it to one side a little bit, got married, had kids, and,
Right.
you know, crazy things, you know, going on.
Pragmatic end.
Exactly. So the way that I got into the record label business, and I got a little label called It's Soul Time Records, is an absolutely true story. I went down to one of these classic soul gigs in South Jersey, and I'm thinking this was probably 13, 14 years ago, and there were groups like the Escorts and Betty Lavette, Smoke Howard and the Ebonies and Blue Magic and the Persuaders.
Doo-wop.
Well, it was basically classics.
It's classic soul.
Classic soul, you know.
Crooners.
Yeah, you know,
Vocalists.
male harmony groups, you know, that kind
Harmony.
of stuff. Yeah,
Betcha by golly.
That's right.
wow.
they weren't there, but they could have been. So you know, I had a great time, and I'm talking actually to Richard Poindexter afterwards, who is the guy that wrote all those big songs for the Persuaders. You know, back in the '70s, he wrote "Thin Line Between Love and Hate." He
Oh,
wrote
wow.
"Hypnotized." For Linda Jones,
Wow.
I'll Be Sweeter Tomorrow for the OJs.
Big tune.
You know, all these fantastic songs. And I probably, and for people that know me well, this doesn't come as a big surprise, but I'd probably been drinking by this point. It's been a really fun night. And I turned around to Richard and I said, look, you know, I'd love to hear some of your new songs. And he said, yeah, I'll send them over. So he sent them over. And but I think at that particular night I said to him, look, Richard, you know, if you can't get anybody to put these things out, I'll put them out.
Wow.
So 6 months goes by. Andy, it's Richard Poindexter, right? So, you know, well, welcome to the record business. Welcome to the record business. You know, and that's exactly how it happened. And then since then, you know, we've done some other stuff. The last release, actually, we licensed Kindred the Family Soul. We licensed a couple of tracks from some of their songs from the past couple of years. Never Loved You More, which was a song, and it's still a track that's getting played in the UK on like the, if you like, the more of the modern soul scene.
Okay.
You know, not on the house scene as such, although there's less, you know, there are far fewer, I guess, you know, barriers over there.
Right.
So clubs will play, they'll play Afro, they'll play soulful house, and they'll play jazz, and they'll play funk, and they'll play 70s soul, you know, which for those of us that are into all of those things.
If you love music, throw it on.
Yeah.
You know?
So, you know, so we put that out a few months ago. The one before that was a group actually out of Brooklyn called Ernest, Ernie and the Sincerities.
Okay.
They did a track called Do Something, and we put these things out on 45s.
Really?
Yeah, and you know, because that market's getting much bigger again. And then before that, we did something on a group called Bags, which was a group from South Plainfield, New Jersey, and something that was recorded back in the early 70s. So, you know, I'm finding things all the time. And, you know, so whenever you think you've heard everything, somebody pulls out a tape and says, take a listen to this, you know, and it's something that somebody recorded years ago, and it will just completely blow you away.
What was your biggest surprise as far as that goes in the record business?
Well, getting into it in the first place was the biggest surprise, because that wasn't on the plan.
Right.
Ernest Ernie, I think, was probably the biggest surprise we had. We put that out basically last Christmas.
Okay.
In the week between Christmas and New Year's Eve, and we only pressed up 500 records. Right. These things were gone in like 3 days.
Wow.
And you know,
congratulations.
Well, but see, here's the thing: we thought we had a great record. We didn't know how good it was.
Right.
And obviously, so we sell everything, and you got these crazy collectors all across the world.
Right.
You know, they got to get their hands on the first pressing. So all of a sudden, you know, there's this 45 that we're selling for $7, $8, or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden, it's changing hands for like $150. I mean,
the collector's market.
Yeah, it's crazy. So we tried to pop that by putting out another 500. So you know, so we sold like 1,000 of those.
Right.
And so that's probably, I guess, you know, the biggest surprise that we.
So now, for those listening, and this is the Dance4Life house show.
Yeah.
And it seems probably to most house DJs and house enthusiasts that vinyl has gone by the wayside.
Yeah, I mean, what is really weird is that if you take even not every single one, you know, some of the big early records actually are very, very collectible. But you know, you got some great house records that come out in the late 80s, early 90s, you know, still selling, you know, basically for pennies, right? I mean, you know, I mean, you can find this stuff online,
right?
So crazy people like me that just hear something, you know, if it's a track that I like, I'll basically, you know, buy the download or whatever.
Right.
But if it's something that I really, really like, and it's something from 20 years ago,
you want the vinyl.
I've got to get the record.
Right.
You know.
Now, but for those that are interested, what are the bigger vinyl markets that are out there in 2019?
I mean, I would say that soul, modern soul,
or the areas of the world, like where are people still buying records?
Well, I mean,
because that's like a foreign language in these days.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. Well, here's the thing as well. So there's some gigs that I do actually back in the UK, and there's a gig that I do in Spain called Soul for Real, and it takes place every October. Joe Bataan is playing there.
Oh wow!
This year, and then in previous years,
East Harlem Zone.
Yeah, exactly.
East Harlem Zone, Joe Bataan.
And then in previous years, they've had people like Margie Joseph.
Wow.
Lenny Williams.
Wow.
You know.
Oh.
You know,
the people that are listening in Harlem now, they know these names that you're talking about.
Yeah.
What is the name of this place again?
Well, this particular event is called Soul for Real.
Soul for Real.
And it takes place in Bilbao, Spain, and that takes place in October. And they have like 2 or 3 venues. Not one single venue even has a CD player, right? So you have to have the records.
Right.
You have to have the records. And and again, I think there's quite a few events like that take place in Europe, especially. But that's happening more and more here as well, by the way.
Right.
There are 2 or 3 small clubs in New York, essentially playing 60s, 70s soul, and everything is on vinyl.
If you're playing that kind of music, it's only right that you play it on vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's only right. So you hear that, people? You heard it.
Yeah.
You heard it first on the Dance for Life house. So vinyl is not dead.
But also as well, I guess Danny Kruz has started doing these things as well. So he's done half a dozen parties where he's just playing pure 45s all night.
Sure, Danny Krivit. You have Kenny Dope.
That's right.
DJ Spinner puts
Spinner's
out
doing them. Yeah.
vinyl.
Yeah.
Across the board, there are many genres. Punk rock never stopped putting out vinyl.
No.
A lot of the hip hop guys still put out vinyl. Shouts out to Stone Throw Records.
Yeah.
My man DJ CX. All those vinyl lovers out there. You know?
Yeah.
Andy Lothian is in the building. You are listening to the Dance for Life house show. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, any Twitter, any social media platform. I'm Kev Kruz, KEVDOTKRUZ. And you can find the set that Andy played. We will have it for you soon on SoundCloud, and you can see the video in high quality on YouTube very shortly, as soon as we get that edited up. It is amazing, the set he played tonight, and we're very lucky to have him. Talk to us. It's 2019. You've been around the world a little bit. What's new?
Well, not that it ever really went away, but I think that my passion for music is, I think like most people, I think that, you have these sort of peaks and troughs, in terms of how much you really, really love it.
Right.
And I found myself getting, pulled back in. I think obviously the people, I think, is one of the main draws, but I think there's so much great music out there right now. And I think it's a really exciting time. I think part of the problem is down to the fact that it's much cheaper to make music now, because of the technology. But trying to get that music heard and, in amongst thousands of other things is just really, really difficult.
Yeah, it's a new game.
Yeah. So, so again, I think we're finding new things all the time. Even records that maybe only come out 6 months ago, 12 months ago. Or I guess downloads, right? Sometimes if they don't catch on fire in the first week, 2 weeks, they'll kind of get lost, and then at some point somebody will find it again.
Right.
So I find that really exciting. DJing wise, I'm kind of getting dragged back in again. I do a little show. Actually, it's not even a small show. I work on a station actually back in London called Starpoint Radio, which is now online. That's been going for like 35 years. I've been on there, well, not online for 35 years, 'cause obviously, there was no internet back in those days. But, that particular station, started off as a pirate.
Okay.
So, for example, there were no stations when I was a kid that were playing soul music, R&B, jazz, and funk, right? So we had to create our own stations, right? And it meant that guys would be putting transmitters on top of buildings in the highest point of town, and you'd keep going until, the guys came around from whichever department of the government that said, you got to close this thing down, right? So we basically had to create that ourselves.
That's the definition of underground.
Yeah, completely.
The very definition of underground.
Yeah, and so now it's online. I do a show actually called The New Jersey Connection. I've been doing that for about 3 years now. I first started it about 10 years ago. I don't want to jinx it. I'm hoping to have a new gig actually coming up soon, a day party in New York, which is going to be from like 3 in the afternoon until 9 or 10, something like that.
Very nice. Very nice.
especially for us, older
Yeah.
people like me that can't, cut it every single night at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Very nice. People have bills to pay. We understand.
Exactly. And the idea of that is that, we can play soulful house. We can play some Latin jazz. We can play some Afro. We can play some old soul.
Right.
And
there's not a set expectation.
There's not a set
when you
expectation.
go into that atmosphere.
Yeah, because certainly to me, if I'm listening to, I don't know, James Brown or Fela Kuti, Miles Davis or John Coltrane, or even, I guess, Kamasi Washington or somebody, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's a thread that runs through all of those things, and it's all the same to me, right? Now, not everybody can hear it like that, right? But why can't you play those things in the same place?
Well, do you feel like it's the DJ's job to present it in that way?
It probably is, but I think part of the problem is that quite a few places, they just want to be this kind of club. They just want to be that kind of club. And I think, to an extent, some of the DJs tend to get, if not told what to play, because they ain't going to play what they're told to play, but in a certain style.
They get steered in the direction.
Yeah. And obviously the safest thing to do, is to keep that 4-on-4 thing, for 4 or 5 hours, right? If you start to change up, some of the rhythms and everything else, I mean, not everybody's going to go on that journey, right? But that's okay, right?
Listen, we are in New York City, which is the home of a lot of it.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
Don't be shy around us.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Don't be shy around us at all. Now, before we go a little bit further, where can people find you and find these things? Please let the audience know, because I'm sure they're looking.
Yeah. So I'm on Facebook. If you just look, well, actually, I mean, you can find me through your page on Facebook as well, Kev.
Right.
But
Sure.
Andy Lothian, Lothian. It's not Armenian. I say that because a lot of people think that I'm Armenian. It's actually a Scottish name, and it's actually a part of Scotland that goes from Edinburgh down to the borders. So, just want to clear that up. So I'm on Facebook, and then you'll find my show, which is the New Jersey Connection. It's on Apple iTunes and Spotify and Google.
Say the name of the show again so the people don't forget it.
The New Jersey Connection.
The New Jersey Connection.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and you mentioned Starpoint.
Starpoint Radio, that's starpointradio.com, and I'm on there every Saturday, 12 noon until 2 here, and it goes out. So it's basically 5 o'clock till 7 in the evening over there.
And you also mentioned Soul for Real.
Soul for, I don't think I can play this year. I've actually done that festival the last 3 years, but as I said, hopefully I've got something new which I'm going to have confirmation on in the next day or so about this new day party that we'd love to bring to New York. And,
awesome.
And again, something fairly laid back, casual, but something where we can just play everything.
Awesome.
So.
Now you just mentioned you went from Miles Davis to John Coltrane, St. John. They just found a new album of his, by the way, which is amazing. That's one of my heroes. So what inspired you, or who inspired you as far as DJing? Those are obviously some of your musical inspirations, but DJing wise, who inspired you over the years? Who did you look up to?
Well, since I've come here, obviously, there are certain DJs that I've gotten to know over the past 20 years, right? And certain guys that play certain sets. So here, I can't go back, I guess, to the Paradise Garage because obviously I wasn't here then.
Right.
But I used to see Frankie Knuckles, and he was incredible.
Right.
Danny Criver, I think, is always on point every single time.
Right.
Kenny Dope is another one.
That guy.
So,
big up to Kenny Dope.
Rich Medina's another one, right?
Okay.
And again, guys that can cut it across so many different types of areas.
Definitely, that is a commonality.
Yeah.
With those particular guys.
And then I guess back in the UK, not that they'll mean too much to people here. Bob Jones was a guy that I used to watch and hear play. Actually, Bob is still working. He's in his 70s now, I think.
Big up to Bob.
Yeah, Bob Jones, Terry Jones, who's a very good friend of mine. Terry's actually celebrating 50 years as a DJ this year as
Wow.
well. So he's got a big party in
Very
England, I
nice.
think, in a couple of months' time. There was a guy called Chris Hill, who was probably the biggest showman that the soul music scene ever had. There was him and the guy up north by the name of Colin Curtis.
Okay.
You know, so they were kind of like the pioneers for me. Why? Because they were just playing all kinds of different things.
Right.
And you know, so that's what kind of draws me in.
Nice. When you paint from a wide palette
Exactly.
of colors
Yeah.
with music, and you
Yeah.
certainly did that for us tonight, and we thank you so much.
It was my pleasure. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
It was our pleasure.
Yeah.
Wow.
Super
What
treat.
what an amazing time. Now, if I can remember, I'm going to go off the top of my head for now, but we tried this the last time with DJ Q. Big shout outs to DJ Q. I love you, my brother. The 4 questions on the Dance for Life house show,
Right.
if I can remember them.
Ooh.
The first question.
Yeah.
What was your favorite rock group as a kid?
Rock group.
You think long, you think wrong. Don't think about it too long. Just
I would say The Who.
the Who.
The Who.
Very excellent.
Yeah.
What is your favorite snack at the moment?
Oh my God. If my wife is listening, I'm gonna give you my favorite snack. Sweet or savory?
It's up to you. What hand is your what cookie jar has your hand been in lately?
Oh man, my favorite snack. I mean,
At the moment it changes.
there's a British cookie. They're called chocolate digestives, right?
Right,
And they sell them in, I guess, Stop and Shop in these places.
right,
And yeah, I guess you get like 20 in a tube, right?
right.
If the tube gets opened in our house, it's gone. It's gone in 10 minutes. You know what I mean?
You hear that word, chocolate digestives? Because
It
listen,
is chocolate digestives.
listen,
yeah,
if the kind of people that might be listening to my show might be spending time in the kitchen, might be spending time in the studio,
That's
and might
right.
be spending time around
Yeah.
some snacks.
Yeah.
So don't feel shy. If you look at my belly, you
Oh,
understand how it goes down.
Yeah.
That was question number 2.
That was 2.
Question
yeah.
number 3. What track is really turning you on? What song have you heard lately, any genre, that's really turning you on at the moment?
You know, I played it tonight. Kelly Griffin.
Yeah.
You know, the Gladys
Gladys
Knight
Knight.
thing.
Okay.
That, you know, the first time I heard that, the hairs on my arms literally stood up. Right.
Yeah.
That's what good music can do. That's what soul music can do.
Yeah.
And you know, whether it's got a house beat or something else, right? To me, that is soul music. And anytime you hear Gladys Knight singing like that, and then Kelly does a fantastic job in terms of how he put the whole thing together.
Right.
I mean, that literally gives me chills.
It's giving me chills just
Yeah.
talking about it right now. It
Yeah.
really is. Now, the last question is, what is your favorite DJ booth that you have played in anywhere around the world?
You mean apart from this one? I would say that actually it wasn't even the best equipment that I've ever used. Probably not even the fanciest gig. But the DJ booth that really sticks in my mind was a gig that I had back in this was 1986, might have been 87. There was an English boxer by the name of Frank Bruno.
We remember Frank.
Yeah, and Frank Bruno fought Tim Witherspoon for the world champion, for the heavyweight title,
Right.
at Wembley Stadium.
Wow.
And Tim Witherspoon had actually been training, and he was based in the hotel which had the club that I was working in at that particular time.
Right.
So I got to know him, and I got to meet Don King and all, you know, the entourage and everything else. And fortunately, they asked me to play the party up in the West End of London after the fight. Now, I was a big Frank Bruno fan, right? But I've got to tell you, on that particular night, when I saw Frank hit the deck, I'm thinking, thank goodness, right? Because,
Right.
you know, because having to play an after party, right?
For a beat up
For a
fighter.
beat-up boxer, I'm thinking this wouldn't be good. So that was fun. Why was it that much fun. I met Muhammad Ali.
Wow.
I met
Oh.
Sugar Ray Leonard at this particular.
Wow. So it wasn't the equipment or the
It
venue,
wasn't, yeah.
it was the atmosphere.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, I'm standing there, and it was early on, and Muhammad Ali actually came up to the booth, right? And I was probably shaking like a leaf at this point. I mean, it's one of my heroes
The
there.
greatest.
And we exchanged a few words. Obviously, we didn't have cell phones back in those days. I didn't get a photograph with the guy. I mean,
Right.
one of those things you think, I really wish I'd had a camera.
Yeah.
Sugar Ray Leonard,
Wow.
he was there. Kid Creole and the Coconuts were there.
Wow.
And I was chatting, and it was just one of those fun experiences.
Wow.
So, not a great booth, but a booth that is instilled in my memory forever.
I'm sure that
You
will never leave you. What a magical moment.
Yeah,
Those are the magical moments that music can bring,
for sure. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And there you are, a kid from the UK,
yeah,
and being around heroes of most of us
yeah, yeah.
because of music,
That's right.
and you're still here to talk about it, so I'm sure you enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
Nobody took a
Absolutely.
swing.
Nobody took a swing. Although I think back in those days, I probably would have taken it slightly better than I would now. I mean, now I'd be. But, yeah.
He was fit back in the days, and
Yeah.
good Lord, he was fit tonight. Andy Lothian, it is a pleasure and a great honor to have had you here tonight, and I'm sure our listeners will certainly agree.
Thank you, Kev.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It is the
Thank
Dance4
you.
Life House Show. I'm Kruz. The lovely Pia is in the building.
Woohoo.
All the people listening in Facebook from all around the world, we see you. The UK was listening tonight.
They were.
The UK
For
was
sure.
listening tonight. Harlem was listening tonight. WHCR, the voice of Harlem, 90.3 FM, the Dance4Life House Show. And Andy Lothian was our special guest tonight. That's all I got to say. That's all I got to say. New York City and around the world. Till next time, this is Kev Kruz. Dancing is the highest form of praise. If you want to live your best life, don't forget to dance.